7 signs of Jesus' return.
Hello, my dear friends. Very well. We are speaking of the signs of Jesus' coming and the end of times. The first great sign that Jesus speaks about is about deceit. He said, take heed that no one deceives you. Take heed that no one deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will deceive many. And then we continue talking of the second sign. Then we spoke of the third sign. Now, the fourth sign, Jesus once again mentions about deceit, and he says like this, then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. You must observe when you read the Bible always the emphasis that Jesus put in certain points or words. And in this case right here, in his teaching to the disciples, he strengthened the idea that in the last days there will be many false prophets. Many false prophets. False prophets that will rise up and will deceive many. He spoke the first sign about deceit. But he says many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. So Jesus, he emphasizes that many will be deceived. And I was thinking, how can it be? How can deceit come about? How does the false prophet come about? And of course, the false prophet, he learned to be a prophet. Certainly. So he came among the prophets, learned the technique of the prophets, the true prophets, and then he began to apply these techniques to himself or to themselves, and now began to deceive people in their teachings, to deceive the weak. Now, who is the weak? The one who is emotional, people who are driven by music, people who are driven by feelings, and these fall easy into the traps of the false prophets. So the false prophets, they learn certain things, or let's say the whole Bible they learn, and then they take advantage of that and begin to extract things that pleases everyone. And then these false prophets, they work like this. They just want to please everyone. They want to please everybody with their sermon. And the false prophet does not have no interest in speaking directly about the Holy Scriptures, the truth of it. They only speak about what pleases people, what they want to hear. And in the last days, Jesus said, in the last days, and in the last days to his coming, there will be many false prophets that will rise up and deceive many. And this is the fourth sign. And one more important point that we have to note is that the false prophets, they come about, or they start inside of the church. And for example, we had many bishops, pastors, many assistants, many auxiliary pastors that they left from the work of God. And they remained years with us, so they learned what they needed to do, what was right. But for an inappropriate action or behavior like adultery, prostitution, robbery, lies, a series of other things that it's not worth mentioning here, but because of these mistakes and these problems, immediately they were removed from the altar to occupy a position, a secular kind of work, until they would prove that they were fit to work again or to continue on the altar. Because when these make such mistakes, they commit mistakes and they don't submit. They cannot repent of what they did, and they are not humble enough to repent. And what do they decide to do? They leave the church and get people that they know and go about opening their own churches. And this is how a false prophet begins. He preaches about something that he does not have, and talking about things that they don't know. Before, they had the knowledge of God, the knowledge of the Spirit of God. But because of their mistake or their sinful act, they don't want to lose that position. And then they begin to go about preaching and making miracles. And the devil loves, the devil even helps these kind of acts to bring about the false evangelical ministry. And this is how the false prophet comes to be. So the fourth sign says, then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And Jesus said it in the beginning of the first sign, to take heed of the false prophets, of those who will deceive you. Those who will deceive. And this is what you have to be watchful for. I have to be watchful for. So it's your homework for every day to be watchful, not to be taken by the faith of emotion. Because faith is intelligence, not emotion. Faith is reasoning. That is the faith that maintains us standing firm.
The seven signs of Jesus' return.